The Shark Deck.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Jim Gaffigan said, comedians are a serious bunch. They're much more philosophical and introspective, and maybe it's narcissism, but they're more thoughtful than one would imagine. For me, I'm always relearning basic truths. It's almost embarrassing. I remember a big goal of mine was to appear on Late Night with David Letterman. I wanted to do that everything would be solved. So then I remember after performing on Late Show, it was great. But I was like, all right, what do I do now? And I realized, well, I'm not in a romantic relationship. I shared that with friends and family, stuff like that, and that was great, but it was a moment of realization. What's the important thing? He joked about his comedy, saying, with stand-up, essentially, I'm complaining about my family, right? But there's this understanding that if people are complaining about being a parent, that means they're participating. If they're not complaining, either they're the most well-adjusted Buddhist in the world, or if you're not affected by this experience of being a parent, then you're not involved enough. Some of the things I say about being a dad, they're not earth-shattering. The reason they work is because they're universal, and it's a dismantling of a myth surrounding parenting. And I guess behind it is their whole curmudgeon thing. W.C. Fields wasn't really going to eat kids, but it was pretty funny that he was like, they should be cooked. I feel guilty saying this. My dad, he was very engaging. People really liked him, but he wasn't incredibly funny. He was a good hang, but he was more unintentionally funny. And I should also say, that's from a son's perspective. My kids don't think I'm funny. Well, I think they think I'm funny, but could he make a career at this? Certainly not. My father had a joke, why does Jimmy Carter carry around a turkey? For spare parts. That was the joke my dad would tell, and you're like, are you kidding me? It's funny, I'll meet people who know my brother Joe or know my brother Mitch, and Joe and Mitch will tell these people that they're funnier than me, and these people will be like, yeah, I know your brother, he says he's funnier than you. Jim's retort, I have more comedy specials than them. Joe Rogan had Mike Vecchione on his podcast, and Vecchione asked Joe about his techniques for staying calm and confident before every show. Rogan said, arenas. One of the things that I do is I have index cards, so I write out before I'll get there early, and I'll write like just bullet points of all the sets or the bits, and I'll put them on cards like this is on this subject, that's on that subject. I lay them out on a coffee table, and writing that out just cements it all in my head. It solidifies it in my head, and then it's just about getting fired up. My set is rock solid. That means I've done the clubs, and then I went on theaters and started feeling it. You can't just go up in front of 16,000 people not knowing whether or not it's going to work. You have to be tuned in and ready to go. And yeah, you got to go out there with a lot of energy because, you know, this person's like, they got an effing babysitter. They bought the tickets a long time ago, and it's a big deal for them. The Good One podcast asked Kathleen Madigan if there's anything she still wants to do. She says, no. That's such a Kathleen answer. Because the weird thing is, if you're anywhere near my age, we didn't even know those things were going to exist, so you couldn't dream of them. What's HBO? And it shows up and it's like, well, I got to get a special on HBO, but that could have been a goal because it didn't exist. Sirius Radio didn't exist. Netflix didn't exist. Amazon Prime didn't exist. Nothing. It's all been a winged thing. I think actors could say the ultimate thing is an Academy Award or SAG Award. We don't even have any of that. So it's just like the Joy of Painting guy. There's no problems. There's just happy accidents. If you just want to tell jokes and that's what you care about, you've done all the specials that you think you're done with. Is there anything I'm forgetting about? I am smiling reading this because I'm thinking about my several times I hung out with Kathleen. And in case you're curious, she's exactly who you think she is. Like exactly. She really does have that, yeah, nothing's going to faze me vibe. Love her. Hey, Kathleen, you were able to do both Leno and Letterman, which is not a thing a lot of comedians did. And she said, yeah, I was pretty proud of that because my act was just balanced enough that I had stuff weird enough for Letterman, but mainstream enough for Leno. The sets were very different. It's hard to even picture both in one. But even now, I could take that hour on Amazon and go, okay, this is what I had to do to be on Leno. I'd do all the jokes about my mom and dad because that's middle America. And then I'd do the weirder Bigfoot thing for Letterman. She says she's loving doing theaters. I don't care. I don't even want to do an arena. The more I talk about things like this, I think I treat this like a job. Johnny Carson retired and nobody said, hey, what's wrong with you? You'd occasionally see him at Wimbledon. They'd always show him he loved tennis. You'd see him as a fan. He did what normal Midwest people do when they're 65. They retire. I'm good. Now you made me think about it because I haven't thought about it. Is there anything left? No, because the places that I want to go, I can go on my own. I don't need to book a show there. Love her. The Daily Cardinal spoke to Drew Lynch. Hey, Drew Lynch, how do you feel about hecklers? Drew Lynch said, I don't discourage or encourage anything during shows within certain limitations on both ends. I love if there's a show that feels specific to that audience, so if there's something that happens unprompted, I love to play with that. As long as it's in good fun and it's not malicious, I love that the audience can leave feeling like, that was something unique. That was specific to our show that can't be recreated. On the other hand, if someone does call out and becomes so much of a distraction and it becomes clear that in the show the other people are not having a good time because of it, that's where I have to kind of step in and draw the line. Some people love interactive components to a show because that's the advantage of going to see a live comedy show, but at the same time, there's some people who just want to hear the performer. If a certain joke is monopolized by one audience member, then it's up to the performer to try to mitigate that. That's something I had to develop because I used to think a lot of people would be heckling me out of a hurtful place. I used to get heckled because of my speech and people feeling impatient, so it was a defense mechanism that has shaped into a tool that allowed me to funnel little bits and spontaneous moments into my comedy. Something happening from nothing is one of the most beautiful moments in a stand-up show. Amen. As long as it's on the performer's terms and it's not becoming so disruptive that other people aren't enjoying themselves. One way you can support the show, become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts. Click on that purple app that says podcast on your phone there. Search out Daily Comedy News and they'll be like, hey, premium subscription. You're going to click it. And then you're going to go, yeah. And then what's going to happen? I got to warn you. I don't want you to be mad at me a month from now. They'll charge you $5 a month. That's what being a premium subscriber is. So what do I get for that, Johnny Mac? You get the episodes early. For example, this Saturday episode, you could add Friday morning. And the episodes are ad-free, so premium subscriptions on Apple Podcasts, $5 a month. First month is free if you want to test drive it. Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Mark Watson's show is called Search. He's at Melbourne Town Hall until April 23rd. The Age reviewed it and said, with a faux beginning, Mark Watson delivers the audience 4 lies and a single truth to detect. Dressing up as a gigantic plastic phallic thing, speaking multiple languages, sleeping with an Australian A-lister, etc. He leaves the stage and returns 2 minutes later and leaps into a show and slowly dissects the fiction. That sounds fun. He details the repercussions of his failed marriage, the bewilderment of his teenage son's first Google searches since acquiring a smartphone, and Zoom meetings with teachers gone awry. A side note, this is not a show you want to be late for. Apparently some people were late, and he gave it to them. They wrote, nothing groundbreaking, but thoroughly enjoyable, 4 stars. Let's see who's playing on Sunday. Wow, for all my complaining about this website, it loaded in like 1 second today. Gerard McGowan's show is called The Hardest Way to Make an Easy Living. This is a show about construction, trauma, demolishing, and rebuilding yourself. All right, let's listen.
I've been doing comedy 10 years. This is how good it's going. I don't have a bed frame. What's up? Okay, there we go. Look like an... Oh, I didn't know he was married. I was trying to get a high five. Jesus Christ, the wife piping in. He's married. He's married. Don't high five him. Even on a Friday night. Well, check this out. No, it wouldn't. I'm going to do the joke now, if that's all right. Mrs. High Five Wife. Is that okay? Thanks. Yeah. Oh, yes, no, it's not all fun and games. Not a bed frame. It's causing me a few issues lately, not going to lie. I was on a date with a girl recently, going pretty good, right? Going pretty good. She ended up coming home to Casa del Magugan. And then get there, she walked into my bedroom, saw I didn't have a bed frame, and just went, I'm sorry, but I can't do this, and left. Then I chase after her. I was like, hey, can I go with you? I don't want to be here either.
He's fun, very charismatic. I had to scope out some crowd work there that had some F-bombs in it, but good clip there. Louis Gornham's show is called Hit a Pigeon with His Bike, a show about interactions with strangers, serendipitous moments, and the different ways we show each other who we are. Let's listen.
I love having a dog. My favourite thing about having a dog is walking her to the park. That's my favourite activity in the world. I love walking my dog to the park so much, as long as I don't have to speak to any other humans at the park. I hate that. I reckon nothing illustrates the awkwardness that human consciousness has created better than the difference between dog-to-dog interaction and human-to-human interaction. Because the dogs, they connect straight away. You're a dog, I'm a dog, let's have a wrestle. While the humans, you start off by asking each other how old your dogs are. And people are very specific about that, 4 years, 7 months, which is weird. What's the difference between a 4-year-old dog and an 8-year-old dog? I reckon dogs only have 3 ages, really. Puppy, not a puppy anymore, gonna die soon. Other than that...
He's fun, very charismatic. I would like to see more from him. All right, closer to home, the Moontower Festival continues in Austin. Let's see who's playing on Saturday night, and we'll play the, hey, if you and I were there, what would we go see game? All right, at 7 o'clock, our options, Seth Meyers headliner event, Chad and JT, Jared Freed at 7:30. Let's see. Then at 9:30, Seth Meyers again, Randy Fieltface, Jared Freed at 10. Okay, pretty easy for me to pick there. Seth Meyers early, Randy Fieltface at 9:30. Let's do it. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. Can I interest you in some meatballs made out of mammoth meat? No? All right, hi, I'm Johnny Mack, host of 5 Good News Stories. It's a twice-a-week podcast where I share some upbeat stories like the dog who only will respond to commands if you use an Irish brogue. Or what about the guy who's filling potholes with noodles? Or the woman who, congratulations, she passed her driver's license. Oh, by the way, it was her 960th try. You heard me correctly. It's 5 Good News Stories. Nice, easy way to start your morning. 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your podcasts.